This is the Sean Hannity Show podcast.
All right, as we roll along, I spoke with Newt Gingrich earlier. He's going to join us 1 hour from right now, and he is saying that, in fact, Nancy Pelosi should step aside as it relates to the investigation, her conflicting statements, her accusation that the CIA lied in spite of incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. We'll have full coverage of Newt tonight on Hannity, Mike Huckabee, Alan Keyes arrested as it relates to the commencement exercise and more on the Fox News channel. But you know what? These are tough, troubled economic times. That's why we have instituted Financial Advice Friday so that you can navigate your family through these troubled waters.
Now, from the Sean Hannity Show.
Everyone is at fault for this free fall.
The dire economic news.
The financial free fall these days.
With the economy in free fall.
The economy continued its free fall.
The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression.
It's Financial Advice Friday.
Now, there's no shortage of news out there. Obama's words, according to the AP, are worrying the corporate world, with groups bristling over sharp rebukes of lenders, multinational companies. We talked at length about news this week that they're considering dictating the salaries of financial companies, even companies that have not received any bailout money. We've got an article out here today that the feds are literally trying to drive a hard bargain with GM stakeholders, just like they did with Chrysler shareholders and debt holders and bondholders, where they're going to get basically pennies on the dollar. So that's news out there. Life insurers, they're now set to get some TARP aid. That was a big article in USA Today today. Also, the feds are facing big losses in the home market. Believe it or not, the federal government has 50,000 houses on its hands, enough homes to fill a city the size of Riverside, California, or Miami. And they can't get rid of them because of the change in the market right now. We have a vote about to take place in California. 3 months after California seemingly averted a state budget meltdown, voters are asked to ratify billions of dollars in higher taxes. Well, it appears that the taxpayers of California are not ready to go along with this. According to polls, it's going to be defeated handily. So we have on Financial Advice Friday, Dani Babb is with us, founder of the Babb Group. She's also an author, and Dr. John Rutledge, author of Lessons of Road Warrior. Guys, welcome to Financial Advice Friday.
Thanks very much, John.
Let me ask you more specifically these headlines that I'm mentioning here, and Dani, I'll start with you. I mean, the idea that the federal government would dictate the salaries and the compensation of people in the financial sector, even companies that do not receive federal bailout money, that sounds like the end of capitalism to me.
Yeah, it does to me. I think we're entering a new era of government involvement. I think that we're going to start to see more of this happening. This seems to be the government's way of appeasing people who are angry that, quote unquote, Wall Street created the problems of the past several years, and they're using it as a political tool against organizations, and they're going to tie the hands of them and create a lot of unsuccessful companies.
Well, what do you think, Dr. Rutledge?
We've seen price controls and wage controls before, back in the days of Jerry Ford and Jimmy Carter. They never work. It's the surest way that I know how to destroy an economy is to have some guy sitting in Washington making all the decisions. Pretty soon you only need the one guy there. What are the rest of us going to do, you know?
Yeah.
So jobs, growth, and all that are at risk here with the government meddling more and more in pricing decisions.
Well, let me ask you this, because we keep following the gyrations of the stock market, to quote the president. We see it go up, we see it go down. But what are we talking about long term in terms of, the amount of debt and deficits? We also learned this week that $1.8 trillion is going to be our deficit for this year alone, which is 4 times the debt and deficit from last year. $1.8 trillion in 1 year, quadrupling in 1 year the deficit that this country has. What is the long-term prospects of us ever being able to pay this back?
That's unbelievable. It's 12% of GDP. And, Sean, I was in China week before last talking with the leaders there who own $2 trillion of U.S. Treasury debt. And they were asking exactly the same question. With the Fed pumping money out and with the government spending money like drunken sailors, they worry about the dollar going down. They worry about prices going up. Oil prices, commodity prices are rising here out of inflation fears. The next story here, because we're breaking through this credit crunch, the next story is people worried about inflation.
Dani?
Well, right now we've got about every individual in America under today's budget has about $100,000 in their own personal debt in all of this mess. And I don't think we're going to be able to pay this back. The only thing that we're going to be able to do over the long term is even if we raise taxes and they were 100% of income for the next 10 years, we're still not going to pay this debt back. The only thing we can do is what's not going to happen, which is stop spending, reverse the spending, pay back some of the debt that we already have, drop taxes to get people working again, which produces more income tax, not less. And the way it is, we can't pay this back. We can't pay it back the way it is.
All right, on Financial Advice Friday, let's head to our busy telephones. We'll start with Milan in California. Milan, welcome to the program. You're on with Dani Babb and John Rutledge. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Had a real quick question for your advisors there. I've got a adjustable equity line on my home that right now is way down at 4%. And I know that the interest rates are probably going to be going up here in not the distant future, and their advice on trying to refinance it to a fixed rate, which right now I could get at the 4.75.
What's your balance? Do you mind if I ask you balance on your equity line?
The balance on it is $140,000.
Okay, and what's the loan to value total between your first and your equity line?
Oh, I don't have a first. It's just the equity line, and the house right now in California probably easily $750 at a minimum.
Okay, well, yeah, you're in an excellent position. I do see adjustable rates also. They're tied to the LIBOR. I do think they're going to go up in the next year. If I were you, I would hang on to this and probably until October, November. That's when I'm going to be redoing all of mine, and then convert this into a primary first mortgage. You can probably still get in the high fours given the loan to value ratio on this loan. That's what I would do.
Okay, that's great because I was just wanting to hold on to this 4% as long as I could, but then not get stuck in the increasing interest rates.
The other thing you can do, Milan, is be careful not to pay it down because there are banks these days that when you pay it down, they reduce your line by the same amount, at which point you're out of luck.
Yeah, no, at this point, it's a $200,000 line, so I've got a little leeway there as well.
All right, I hope that answers your question. Thanks for being with us. We go back to our phones. We've got Mike in Michigan, which has been devastated by the economic turndown now for years. Mike, welcome to Financial Advice Friday with Dani Babb and John Rutledge. Hi.
Hi, thank you. My question, real quick, I'm in the Army Reserve, and I contribute a little bit to the Thrift Savings Program, and I'm also a teacher, and so I'm eligible for 403B. And my question is, I'm not real familiar with the tax incentives or the positive end of a 403B. So my question is, my options there are limited basically to mutual funds or index funds, as I understand it, and I guess I'm just asking for what advice you all would have as to how to invest and how much in the 403B.
What do you think, John?
The teacher programs also have an option, and I'm saying this by way of warning, of variable annuity. Avoid that thing like the plague. There are expenses up the yin-yang, and they'll eat your portfolio alive. I would right now make sure I do not have those funds in a bond fund because bond interest rates are going up, which means prices going down. At the moment, though, the stock market has been trashed so much over the last 2 years that I would have some of it in the stock market because the stock market has been and I think will continue to perform for a little while more. Long term, an index fund is better than picking a stock because it's much less, it's more diversified and less risky. And to get more specific, we'd have to know your age and some other circumstances.
Well, I'm really young. I'm only 28, so I'm going to be working for a lot of years yet. So
if you're 28 right now, I would have the 2/3 of that portfolio in the S&P 500 index. I don't like what's happening long-term to the economy, but the stock market is probably selling for half of what the companies are worth. So for the next year, I think it's a pretty good ride.
Yeah, I also have 403B as a teacher, Mike, and I have about 75% of that allocated to either S&P and the Dow, and then I also have 25% in index funds. So that's my suggestion. It's pretty close to John's.
All right, Mike, appreciate the call. Thank you. As we go back to our phones, Matt is in Maryland. Matt, welcome to Financial Advice Friday as we continue with Dani Babb and John Rutledge. Hi.
Hi, Mr. Hannity. You're a great American. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, my friend. You're a great American.
In 2008, due to some illness in the economy, I have lost my business, have taken the advice of a bad company, lost lost my home. It was foreclosed. My question is, what would you recommend for repairing my credit? Due to the support of my family, I've been able to find a nice rental property, but I need to address my credit repair. I've been able to secure a great job, but I'm fairly young, 34, repair my credit.
You mind if I ask what your credit score dropped to and what it was before?
They told me it would be about a 200-plus point hit, and I was in the 700s, the high 700s before.
Okay, yeah, you're going to want to get that back to the 680s. The foreclosure in and of itself is probably about 150 of those 200 points. The other 50 points are being late before the foreclosure. The best thing you can do is maintain your existing debts, be current on the existing debts. That's the best thing you can do, first of all. The second thing you can do is you can work with the bank and see if you can settle the difference between what the house ultimately sold for when the house resold your foreclosed home and what you owed on it. If there is, let's say there was a $50,000 difference and they're willing to settle for 20% of that, sometimes for $10,000, $15,000, they will mark that as a paid by debtor instead of just foreclosure, which will bump your score up another 50, 60 points. The other thing I would do is if you have any other debts that you're late on, I would definitely not pay somebody to fix your credit. These are the biggest ripoffs that I see out there. There are a few legitimate companies. Most of them are just scams. I would actually get a hold of all the people that you owe money to and try and work something out with them individually. I've been helping friends do this myself. You can get your score back 10, 20 points at a time next 3 to 4 years. I have a family member that filed bankruptcy 4 or 5 years ago and has now purchased 2 homes and is back again in the high 600s, and it's doable. So my advice would be to hang in there, work with each one of them individually, and find out what it will take for them to change the status on your credit report. And you can flat out ask them that way, what's it going to take for me to show this paid in full, and how can we work it out?
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate that.
All right, Matt, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Best of luck in that. And I tell you, it's very hard for people. Once you get in a hole, I'll tell you, it becomes very difficult to get out. And for those people, whenever you find yourself in a position financially, and I think John and Danny, you'll agree with me, if you can save money, put it away for a rainy day. I mean, all those things that our parents and grandparents taught us really work. All right, hang on there, guys. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Dani Babb, founder of the Babb Group, and also an author. Also, Dr. John Rutledge is with us. And, by the way, they have respective websites, thebabbgroup.com and rutledgecapital.com, if you want to check out more information about their points of view. Now, Newt Gingrich, I spoke with him earlier. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. He's saying now that Nancy Pelosi should step aside. And he'll join us and explain why at the top of the next hour. We'll have full, complete coverage of now Leon Panetta saying that, in fact, we don't lie, and responding to Nancy Pelosi's charge, Governor Huckabee, Dr. Alan Keyes tonight, and much, much more, 9 Eastern on the Fox News Channel. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back on Financial Advice Friday, then Newt Gingrich straight ahead. Well, that's what the Freedom Concerts are all about. 8 of them. Our remaining tickets are now up for sale at Hannity.com. By the way, in one city, I am now told, we just have a few hundred tickets left, and I'm not going to tell you which city it is. So tickets are going fast. We sold a lot more at Christmas than we thought. 8 cities, Billy Ray Cyrus, Charlie Daniels, Lee Greenwood, and Michael W. Smith, and me and Colonel North are hosting it. It's all for the Freedom Alliance Scholarship Fund. The net proceeds go to them for the children of slain heroes. Hannity.com is the only place to get your tickets. You can get it all weekend long, by the way. We continue Financial Advice Friday with Dani Babb and Dr. John Rutledge. This is our short segment. We'll sneak in a quick call here as we say hi to Jessica in Ohio. Jessica, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Well, I recently attended a motivational / business seminar, and I was wondering why the price was so low, and then it turned out that they were kind of like advertising seminars during it, and one of them was an investment seminar on how to learn to trade stocks online. And it was about $99, and I'm a recent college graduate, so it's kind of expensive for someone who just has a temporary job at the moment. And I was just wondering if it might be a good investment to learn how to use the stock market right now, or if I should just wait till later.
I never thought knowledge would be a bad thing to learn. Danny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm never against knowledge, but in this case, Jessica, unfortunately, the way these organizations run is they're going to charge you $99 for the first one, and they're only going to give you enough information to get you to come back to the $1,000 one in a couple of weekends after that, and then the $10,000 one in the couple of weekends after that. They're probably going to charge you a lot more to trade than you normally would. If I were you, I would get the first book I ever read, which was Stock Investing for Dummies. I would start there. I would go to the local bookstore, get a few books on basic stock trading. I would look at open an E-Trade account. You only need, I believe, $500 to do it. Start playing around with open order markets and limit orders and just some of the basics. Get them down with a small amount of money and stocks that you know something about, where you know the company. And I would learn yourself with books rather than go to these seminars.
I want to say something. Everyone forgets that everything and anything you ever want to learn is available on the internet and in your library for free. I mean, if you really want to make a study of this, Jessica, which was my point, and I didn't continue it, but if you really want to make a study of it, there's nothing to stop you or prevent you from learning anything that inspires you or that you have an interest in, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Appreciate the call. I'm sorry this was a short segment, but we're going to come back. More Financial Advice Friday, our long segment coming up. Dani Babb, Dr. John Rutledge. Newt Gingrich joins us at the top of the hour. We'll have full coverage tonight on Hannity as well. He thinks Nancy Pelosi should step aside. That's coming up in a half hour. And on Hannity tonight, straight ahead.
Our competitive system has produced the finest health care in history. And with each year that passes, it saves more lives, finds cures to more diseases, makes life better for more people than ever before.
And now, of course, in Washington, they want to move to socialized medicine. There's one thing that liberals aren't telling you about a Washington takeover of health care. Every other country that has socialized medicine, what do they have? They have long lines, rationed care, politicians, bureaucrats. A government rationing body in Great Britain determines whether or not women that have breast cancer get these life-saving drugs. God forbid it ever happens here. Now, the alternative solutions to government Obamacare are right there at the Heritage Foundation. If you want facts about the liberals' plans for Washington's takeover of health care, if you'd like some real ideas, free market solutions for our health care system for the problems we have, well, all weekend long you can go to askheritage.org because our timeless American values are under attack, and it's time for conservatives to join forces, and they offer the intellectual firepower with the conservative underground. And I am a proud member, and you can be a proud member and join Heritage at askheritage.org. Askheritage.org, and I hope you will join. All right, we continue. It is Financial Advice Friday here on the program. And let us go. We continue with Dani Babb, by the way, and John Rutledge is with us as we get back to our phones and say hi to Niall in Lafayette, Louisiana. Niall, hey, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. Thank you for taking my call, Sean.
What's going on?
I can't believe I'm talking to Sean Hannity for the second time in a month and a half. That's awesome.
Well, I'm glad you checked in. What's going on? I hope your finances are okay.
They're hanging in there. My 77-year-old aunt is moving into an assisted living facility, and because of that, she's going to have an extra $2,500 a month cash that she's never in her life going to need. I need to know how to best invest that or to become part of her estate that's just going to be inherited.
John, we'll give that to you.
Yeah, well, that first thing you got to do is put it someplace where we won't lose it, which means we do not want to have it in any long-term bonds. And because of the age of your aunt, I would want to keep it in a cash instrument rather than in the stock market too. Probably money market funds these days. The returns on those funds are really lousy right now, but they're going to go back up. So don't be suckered in to trying to go after something that promises you a big return, because preserving that money until the markets come back is really your objective right now.
Does that answer your question now?
So money market funds is where it needs to be.
I think because of the age of your aunt and because of the state of the markets and interest rates right now, I would want to keep it very short-term, very safe.
Like I said, she's never going to use it. She's never going to need it. It's just going to be inherited. She's never going to use the money.
Well, the inheritance angle, the question there is whether she'll pay tax on it and how much. Do you know the size of her estate?
It's not large. It's under $50,000.
That means that will be excluded from the estate tax, which is good. But I would preserve it as cash. Who's going to inherit the money afterwards? How many different people?
Just one.
Just one? Because, and how old is that, yourself or somebody else?
Myself. Yeah, it'll be me.
And what's your age? And I know that's a really tricky question to ask.
46.
46? 46 is an age where, if that were your money, I'd be telling you to take it and put about half that money in the stock market and keep about half of it as cash right now. But I'd keep an eye out for the stuff Sean talks about the economy getting in trouble. Right now, the stock market is a good place to be because it's got so cheap. But the fundamentals long term are not looking very good. So you have to be careful and stay tuned on that.
All right. Thank you, Niall. All the best. And we appreciate your call as we continue Financial Advice Friday. By the way, Newt Gingrich at the top of the hour says Nancy Pelosi should step aside, and he'll explain that when we check in with him. We'll have full coverage of whether or not Pelosi should resign on Hannity on the Fox News Channel. But we check in with Troy in Austin, Texas. Troy, you're on the Sean Hannity Show, Financial Advice Friday, with Dani Babb and John Rutledge. Hi.
Hey, how are you doing? Thanks for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I am 55 years old. I have 4 sons between the ages of 22 and 11. 2 of them are college age. One's in high school, one's in middle school. And I have about $250,000 in my 401k, which is in the Artisan Mid-Cap Fund. About $200,000 in my house and about $100,000 in cash. And I'm trying to figure out where to go from here investment-wise.
Danny?
Well, first of all, I would probably at this point I would hang on to about 6 months worth of cash in terms of living expenses, and the rest of the cash I would honestly dump into the market right now because I think we're seeing companies trade so much lower than their value. Given your age at 55, I think that you could, if you're comfortable with it, afford some risk there. Maybe for the next 8 to 10 years, put that money in the market. There's also funds you can buy in terms of the InvestCap and the 401k. You can actually allocate that by retirement age. They've got funds based on when you expect that you'll want the money. They've been pretty dead on target, so I would consider maybe a reallocation of that 401k into some of those funds that will be a little maybe more precise in terms of returns.
And if you're doing that, Troy, those are called target-dated funds. You're going to want to make sure you do it with ones that have low fees. So I'd have a look at Vanguard's products for that.
Yeah, that's not on our list of possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you pay the money to somebody in a fee, then it's gone forever. So.
And the $200,000 you have in your house, you might want to consider just opening a line of credit right now, even if you're not going to use it. Have the line there. It's a good emergency fund. It's a low rate right now, and lines of credit with that type of equity are back in some of the major banks. I would consider doing that just for peace of mind.
All right, okay. Troy, hope that helps you out. Okay, buddy?
It does. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Bye.
you. We go to Wink Radio, Fort Myers, Florida. Check in with Ed. Welcome to Financial Advice Friday with John Rutledge and Dani Babb. How are you, Ed?
I'm doing great, Sean, and I've been waiting 8 years to say this. You're a great American,
You're
sir.
a great American, my friend. God bless you. What's going on?
Well, I'm just coming off of a layoff over the last year, and I'm back to work, but I've lost probably about 40% of my previous salary. During the layoff, I went through almost all of my savings. Now I'm living paycheck to paycheck. What I'm trying to figure out is how can I best save and still pay the bills?
You know, this is always a tough question. I'm going to give you my quick answer because I know a lot of people that have done this. You know, if you can downsize your house, downsize your car, manage your purchasing, especially things that maybe you don't need, you can cut out of your life. You know, you can buy some clothes in secondhand shops. I mean, a lot of these things, I know this because I've lived this way, Ed.
Sure, Sean, and I've done all that already, actually, and that's how I'm able to survive at this point, paycheck to paycheck, is by
it's tough.
I've pared back everything in my life.
Yeah. Well, John, any other thoughts?
The expenses are really where you go. The only other thing I would think of, Ed, is if you've got a job with a paycheck, even if it's a smaller one, first place, that's not a bad place to start. And think about, are there ways you can do something that's really your own business, maybe an Internet-driven business, where you can augment that salary with a few dollars here and there you make on the Internet, eBay, buying and selling things. Danny, you've got ideas there.
Yeah, well, a couple things I would say, Ed. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you were in the housing market in Fort Myers, but it was the worst in the country for a while. So a lot of people are getting double whammies there. The benefit to you, though, if you're renting, is to go beat up your landlord for one heck of a rent reduction, particularly if you're willing to sign a 2 or 3 year lease. It's not unheard of to have 15 or 20% knocked off your monthly rent payment if you're willing to stay in that house for a couple of years, because the owners are freaking out. So that's one thing I would do. The second thing I would do is I would call every single one of the people that you owe money, credit cards. I have many friends doing this right now where they're calling and saying, I simply cannot afford that $800 a month payment. You have got to figure out a way to drop that payment, whether it's by interest rate or by, for the next 5 years, just lowering the payment and having less go to principal. I would call every single one of those debtors, and I would try to work something out with them to get those payments down. Explain to them your situation, that you're making 40% less, and they simply must work with you or they will be late. Banks have 10% right now default rate on credit cards, and they don't want another one. So I'd go after these guys, and I would also negotiate the heck out of any rent payments you have.
Hey, Ed, you sound like a very smart guy, and to the extent that you've cut back on your spending, and now if you can find some way, creative way to bring in just a little bit more income, that'll help get you on the path towards more sound financial position. I wish you luck, buddy, okay? Hang in there. Much. And remember, there are a lot of people in a lot worse shape than you are. At least you're breaking even at this point,
Yeah, absolutely.
So hang in there and see. I'm sure you're going to let that entrepreneurial spirit take over. You'll figure out a way to augment your income, all right?
Absolutely. Thanks for providing this Financial Fridays. It's great.
I'm glad to do it, Ed. Thank you for calling. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it out there in Wink Radio land as we say hi to David next. David, welcome to Financial Advice Friday with John Rutledge and Dani Babb. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good, sir. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, the reason I'm calling, we've been struggling for the last couple of years, and due to a variety of activities, and we're in a situation now where I just recently lost my job. Going through our budget, I'm roughly $3,000. My expenses are more than $3,000 over what I'm getting in unemployment and what my wife's making at the moment. And I have tapped all available assets available, and I'm just trying to figure out whether it makes sense, whether I should file bankruptcy or what to do. It makes me sick, the idea of having to do that. I'm just trying to figure out a way in which to make it beyond that.
We may need more information. John or Dani, your thoughts?
Well, Dani is better at the what to do here. But what I want to say to you, David, is you've got to do what you need to do to protect your family and protect you. Don't let people who want to make you feel bad over these decisions drive your decisions. You've got to protect your family. Dani, what would you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would do whatever makes me sleep at night. And my heart goes out to you. We have so many people calling on our weekend show that are facing this sort of situation. Whatever is going to help you sleep at night and protect your family, first and foremost. Second is prioritize your payments. So the first thing you're going to want to do is food and roof over the head. Really, if you have those two things, and you've got transportation so that you can start looking for another job, those three things together, you can have a life with those three things. And I'm sure, I understand that your payments are $3,000 more than what you're earning. If your rent, your food, and your transportation are not equal to that, then you're in good shape. If they're greater than that, then you're going to have to find maybe a different place to live or sell the car and get a cheaper car and so on, just to ride this out. I think it's important to keep in focus that this is temporary. You will be employed again. You will get a job again. It's insanely difficult. It's anxiety producing, like there's nothing else like it, in my opinion. And and I would just try to focus on, write down your top 3-4 things that you absolutely will pay no matter what, and that's the things that are going to keep you okay and healthy. And then everything else, don't worry about what, as John says, what anyone thinks or what they say. You are in a situation, and you will do what's best for your family.
All right, David, I hope that helps you, and good luck to you, my friend, okay?
Hey, thank you so much, Sean. I love the show. Appreciate everything.
Remember, let not your heart be troubled. I'm telling you, life is full of ebb and flow, and I'm telling you, when you think you're down and out, you're going to come right back fighting with a passion. Just hang in there, okay?
All right, you're making me cry. Thanks.
All right, my friend, hang in there. God bless you. It's really tough for people. I'll tell you, some of these stories break my heart. It's really hard, and that's why we're doing this, guys. Dani Babb, I want to thank you. John Rutledge, thank you. Your advice is invaluable to people. These are tough times, as we can hear from some of these callers. So thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, appreciate it. And let me tell you what we got going on at the top of the hour here. Now, if you're just joining us, Leon Panetta has rebuked and lashed out at pretty much everything that Nancy Pelosi said, accusing the CIA of lying. And so Newt Gingrich is now saying that Nancy Pelosi should step aside. I spoke with him earlier. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. And also we'll be dealing with Newt's comments tonight on Hannity on the Fox News channel. We'll have a full, complete report of what Panetta said. We'll show you the video of what Nancy Pelosi had said, what Newt is saying. And will there be any Democrat that steps up and says she needs to step aside? Because I think she should. So we'll get into that at the top. Newt joins us. Also, Hannity, 9 Eastern. Alan Keyes was arrested again, so hopefully he'll make it to the show tonight. We'll keep you up to speed on that, but he's scheduled to be on, but he apparently is in jail right now. So we're going to have to probably soon come up with a plan B. And don't forget our Freedom Concert tickets at Hannity.com. 8 cities, Billy Ray Cyrus, Lee Greenwood, Michael W. Smith, Charlie Daniels. It's a great summer event, all in August weekends. We'll continue. Newt Gingrich next.
Your daily dose of what is right and true. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
All right, Newt Gingrich at the top of the next hour. He says it's time for Nancy Pelosi to step aside and for the Democrats to remove her after accusing the CIA of lying to Congress and her contradicting statements back and forth about what she knew and when she knew it. We'll also have a complete debate. Newt calling on her stepping down tonight on Hannity on the Fox News channel. Also, Mike Huckabee tonight. Alan Keyes, who was arrested over Obama speaking at Notre Dame. And much, much more. That's coming up 9 Eastern, Hannity on the Fox News channel. Also, don't forget your Freedom Concert tickets. 8 cities, Billy Ray Cyrus, Michael W. Smith, Lee Greenwood, Charlie Daniels. And you can get those tickets at Hannity.com is the only place to get it. By the way, I want to tell you one thing about your computer and your hard drive. Because we all put on our computers, all this irreplaceable stuff. I mean, I've got family photos, we've got videos, we've got music collections, we've got important business documents, financial documents. Maybe you're writing a book or a college term paper. Look, you've got to understand every computer is vulnerable to failure. Every computer is vulnerable to data loss. It's happened to me when I was writing my second book. It can happen to you. Now, the most common forms of failure are data loss. If your hard drive crashes or a theft or a loss or a virus, or if you accidentally delete something. Every week, 140,000 hard drives crash here in the U.S. Every week, 12,000 laptops are lost or stolen at U.S. airports. I have found the secret, if you're worried about this, and we all should be. Mosey Online Backup. And I use it to protect all of my valuable computer files. It's really easy to use. It's very secure and private. Runs automatically, will not interfere with the performance of your computer. You don't ever have to worry about any backups. In other words, Mosey, you set it, you forget it. And for less than $5 a month, less than the cost of a latte. And it works on both PCs and Macs. And look, they have over 1 million users. I use it. I love it. You'll use it. You'll have peace of mind like I do. And all you have to do is go to Mosey.com, MOZY.com. And they have a friendly staff available 24/7, 365. And by the way, use the promo code Hannity at checkout and you receive a big special discount. But you got to literally, Mosey, you set it, you forget it. All right, when we come back, Newt Gingrich says it's time for Speaker Pelosi to go. He'll join us next. And Gary Sinise coming up as we continue this Friday edition of the Sean Hannity Show.